We had planned the Christmas dinner for months. It was not a mere meal. It was a ritual, a sacred tradition that had passed through our family for generations. Eleanor and I, now in our late 60s, had always seen Christmas not as a single day, but as a season of warmth, of gratitude, and of coming together. Our home, a two-story Victorian on the edge of town, was our sanctuary, and at this time of year, it transformed into a haven of festive cheer. The scent of cinnamon and pine, the soft glow of fairy lights against the snow-covered windows, the gentle hum of Christmas carols playing softly from the old record player, all of it was a testament to our enduring love for our family. This year was to be particularly special. Our son, David, had been struggling with his mortgage payments, a fact he had shared with us in a moment of vulnerability many months prior. We had been saving diligently, putting aside a little extra from our retirement funds each month. It was a secret, a quiet act of love that we had hoped to reveal on Christmas Day, when we would hand him a check large enough to alleviate a significant portion of his financial burden. The amount was substantial to us. It was a sum we had set aside for our own travel plans, for the trip to the national parks we had dreamed of for years. But his happiness, his security, was always more important to us than any scenic view. The weeks leading up to Christmas were a whirlwind of activity. Eleanor baked dozens of her famous gingerbread cookies, each one a tiny work of art, a miniature testament to her love. I, in turn, polished the antique silverware until it gleamed, a tradition I had inherited from my father. The centerpiece of our dinner, a majestic roasted turkey, was ordered and awaiting its grand preparation. We had even bought a special, extra-large box of crackers, the kind with silly paper hats and bad jokes, which were always a highlight for our grandchildren, who we adored more than anything in this world. The call came on a Tuesday evening, a few days before Christmas. The phone rang with a digital chime that felt jarring in the quiet, cozy atmosphere of our living room. It was David. We answered with a sense of excited anticipation, ready to finalize the last details of the upcoming celebration. "Hello, my boy," I said, a smile already forming on my lips. "We were just talking about you. The house smells wonderful." "Hi, Dad. Is Mom there? I have some news." His voice was flat, devoid of the usual affection. "I am here, dear," Eleanor said, taking the phone from my hand. "Are you all right? You sound a bit tired." "We are fine, Mom. Listen, we are not going to make it for dinner on Friday." Eleanor's smile faltered. "Oh, darling, why? Is everything all right with the children? Did one of them get sick?" "No, Mom. Everything is fine. We just decided to take a spontaneous ski trip. Sarah found a fantastic deal, and the kids have never been. It is a long-awaited vacation." A silence descended upon the room, heavy and cold. It felt like a physical weight, pressing down on our chests. "A ski trip?" Eleanor repeated, her voice a fragile whisper. "But we were also looking forward to our Christmas dinner. We have made all the preparations." "I know, Mom," David said, a hint of impatience creeping into his tone. "But a family dinner is a family dinner. We can do it another time. This trip is an investment in our mental health. You two have your friends. I am sure you will find something to do." Eleanor's hand trembled as she held the phone. "But, my love, you know how important this is to us. We have done this every year since you were a little boy." "Things change, Mom. We are not little children anymore. Our traditions are a bit, well, old-fashioned. We need to build our own. Look, I have to go now. We have a lot of packing to do. We will talk when we get back. Merry Christmas, you too." The line went dead. Eleanor stood there, the receiver still clutched in her hand, her face pale. The sound of Christmas carols felt suddenly mocking, the aroma of gingerbread a bitter reminder of a celebration that would not be. The house, which had moments ago been full of life and warmth, now felt empty and desolate. He is not coming," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "They are not coming." I walked over to her, putting my arm around her shoulder. "It is all right, my dear. Perhaps it was a last-minute decision. We will have our own dinner, just the two of us." But we both knew it was not all right. It was a rejection. A sharp, stinging blow to the very heart of our family. The check, which was now sitting in an envelope on the kitchen counter, felt like an absurd joke. We had sacrificed our dreams for his, and in return, he had dismissed our most cherished tradition as a minor inconvenience. The money we had saved, the hours we had spent, the love we had poured into our preparations, all of it felt worthless. That evening, as we sat in silence, the weight of the canceled dinner was almost unbearable. We looked at the carefully laid-out table, the festive plates, the sparkling glasses, and our hearts ached. It was not just about the dinner. It was about the disregard, the callousness, the feeling of being an afterthought. We had always put our children first, had always been their rock, their support. But in that moment, it felt as though the roles had been reversed. We were the burdens, the old-fashioned relics, and they were the ones who had moved on, leaving us behind in a house full of empty chairs and a silent, broken Christmas. Our dreams of a peaceful, joyful holiday with our family had been shattered, and we did not know how to pick up the pieces. The silent house was no longer a haven, it was a mausoleum of broken traditions. For the first 2 days after the call, we moved through our home as if in a trance. The carefully polished silverware on the dining table caught the weak winter light, but its gleam was a harsh mockery. Eleanor would pass by the kitchen, her eyes lingering on the turkey order still pinned to the refrigerator, a painful reminder of a feast that would never be. We had made the house perfect for a family that had decided we were imperfect, a family that had packed their skis and their children and had left our love behind. We tried to fill the void. We turned the volume on the Christmas carols up a little louder. We made a small, quiet dinner for just the two of us, but the food tasted like ash and the conversation was forced. We spoke of mundane things, of the weather, of the books we were reading, all to avoid the gaping wound of our son's rejection. We did not mention the ski trip, the old-fashioned traditions, or the check that lay untouched in its envelope, a symbol of our wasted love. That check, which had once represented our hope for his future, now felt like a heavy stone, weighing us down. On Christmas Eve, as we sat by the fire, the phone rang. A jolt of hope, foolish and irrational, went through me. Perhaps he had changed his mind. Perhaps a last-minute change of heart had brought him to his senses. I picked up the receiver, my heart pounding with a desperate yearning for reconciliation. It was our granddaughter, Lily, her voice bright and full of life. "Hi, Grandpa. Merry Christmas Eve. We're having the best time. The snow is amazing and Mom and Dad say we are getting so good at skiing." My heart, which had just soared, plummeted back to earth. They were not changing their plans. They were not coming home. They were simply calling to tell us how wonderful their Christmas was without us. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow. I could hear David laughing in the background, his voice a sound I would normally cherish, but now it felt like a cruel knife twisting in my gut. "That is wonderful, darling," I said, trying to keep the strain out of my voice. "We are so happy for you. Grandma, you should see the place we are staying," she continued, her innocent voice a dagger. "It is so cool. Mom says they got it at a discount, and that we can come here every year and make it our new Christmas tradition." The words hit me with the force of a physical blow. A new tradition. The old one, the one we had nurtured for decades, was not merely postponed, it had been replaced. It was a formal, undeniable declaration of our irrelevance. "She says you two can join us next year if you are not busy," Lily said, her voice dropping to a whisper. But I think she was just being nice. Lily, in her youthful honesty, had revealed the truth that David had been too cowardly to articulate. They did not want us there. We were an afterthought, an inconvenience, a pair of old people who had outlived their purpose in their modern, new, and exciting life. I handed the phone to Eleanor, her face a mask of sorrow. She spoke with Lily for a few minutes, her voice breaking a little as she told her how much she loved her and missed her. She ended the call with a final, "Merry Christmas, my sweet girl," and then she put the receiver back in its cradle, her hand trembling. The tears, which she had so bravely held back, finally began to fall, tracing silent, hot paths down her cheeks. That night, as we lay in bed, the silence was deafening. There was a chasm between us, filled not with anger, but with a profound, shared grief. We were both thinking the same thing, but neither of us dared to say it out loud. This was not a one-time slip. This was a pattern. A cold, calculated detachment that had been building for years. The next day, as the sun rose on Christmas morning, our doorbell rang. It was David. He was standing there with Sarah and the children, their faces flushed with the cold, their ski jackets still on. For a fleeting moment, a flicker of hope returned. Perhaps they had come back to surprise us, to tell us it was all a terrible joke. "Merry Christmas, Mom and Dad," David said, his voice cheerful. "We are so sorry to do this, but we had a problem with the pipes at our house, and we cannot stay there for a few days. We figured we would just stay here until we sort it out. We know we did not give you any notice, but we are family, right?" My heart, which had been so full of hope, turned to ice. This was not an apology, it was an invasion. They had not come back to make amends, they had come back because they needed us. It was a shocking display of their self-centeredness. He had dismissed our home, our traditions, and our feelings just days before, only to now demand our hospitality without an ounce of remorse. "You are so good to us," Sarah said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "We do not know what we would do without you. We will just be here for a few days until the plumbing is fixed. The kids have brought their new ski gear with them, so they can show you how good they have become." They walked in, bringing the cold air with them, and our home, which had been so full of silent sorrow, was now filled with their loud, boisterous self-importance. They treated our home as a hotel, an inconvenience they had to endure until they could return to their own comfortable lives. There was no mention of the Christmas dinner. No apology for the pain they had caused. It was as if our feelings did not exist. Later that evening, after the kids had gone to bed, David cornered me in my study. He sat down heavily in my favorite armchair, the one my own father had given me, and sighed. "Dad, we need to talk about your will." I felt a cold dread spread through me. It was not a conversation. It was a demand. "Our will is our own business, David," I said, my voice quiet but firm. I know," he said, waving a dismissive hand. "But you two are getting older. The house is a lot to maintain. Sarah and I have been thinking it might be a good idea for you to sell it and move into a smaller, more manageable place. A condo or maybe a retirement community. You would not have to worry about the lawn, the roof, any of that. We could help you find a great place. And with the money from the sale, you could give us a little help with our mortgage and we could get back on our feet." The brazenness of his words, his complete lack of respect, left me speechless. He was not asking, he was telling us what we should do, also he could benefit from it. He had taken our sacrifice and thrown it back in our faces, and now he was trying to take our home, too. The words "sell it" and "give us a little help" echoed in my head, a chorus of betrayal and greed. "We love this house, David," I said, my voice a mere whisper, full of an ache that was deeper than any physical pain. "Your mother and I have lived here our entire lives. It is our home." "It is just a house, Dad," he said, shrugging his shoulders, his eyes devoid of any emotion. "You can make new memories somewhere else. But our family, our future, that is what is important. You know you are going to leave it to us anyway. Why not help us now, when we need it most?" In that moment, I knew. It was not a matter of a canceled dinner. It was a matter of control, of money, of power. We were no longer his parents. We were his assets, his financial safety net. And his wife, Sarah, was the mastermind, the one who had poisoned his heart with greed. The house was not too big for us. It was too big for them to wait for. They wanted it now. They wanted everything. And they were willing to crush our hearts and our dignity to get it. I looked at him, my own son, and I saw a stranger, a cold, empty shell of a man I had raised with so much love. And for the first time, a flicker of something other than pain ignited in my heart. It was a spark of righteous indignation, of a resolve to not let them win. This house, our home, our dignity, was all we had left. And we would fight for it. The cold dread that had spread through me in the study did not dissipate. It hardened into a core of steel. I sat there for a long time after David left, the echo of his words, "It is just a house," Dad replaying in my mind. The armchair, a gift from my own loving father, now felt like an accusation. How could he, my son, see our home as nothing more than a financial asset? How could he so casually dismiss a lifetime of memories, of birthdays, of Christmases, of raising him within these walls? It was not just an insult, it was a complete erasure of our existence. I found Eleanor in the kitchen, staring at the Christmas tree lights, which now seemed to flicker with a tragic, ironic sadness. The grandchildren's laughter from the other room, a sound that would normally bring us immense joy, felt like a distant, alien noise. They were blissfully unaware of the greed that had poisoned our family, of the darkness their parents had brought into our home. "He wants the house," I said, my voice hoarse. "He and Sarah want us to sell it and move into a retirement community. They want the money to pay off their mortgage." Eleanor turned to me, her eyes red from crying, but in them I now saw not just sorrow, but a fire I had not seen in years. "They canceled our Christmas," she said, her voice low and steady. "They came back only when they needed a place to stay. And now they want to take our home. Our home." She repeated the word as if tasting its sacred meaning. "They do not see us as people. We are just obstacles in their path to a better life." In that moment, we were no longer just a husband and wife facing a difficult situation. We were allies in a quiet war, united against a betrayal that cut deeper than any words. Our pain, which had been a solitary burden, was now a shared weapon. The passive grief was replaced by an active resolve. We would not let them win. This was not a fight for money or property, it was a fight for our dignity, for our identity, for the very soul of our family. The next few days were an exercise in emotional subterfuge. We smiled, we played with the children, we listened to Sarah complain about the outdated kitchen and the cluttered living room. She spoke of her plans to renovate the house, to open up the space, as if we were not sitting right there, listening to her plans to gut our home and our memories. David, meanwhile, was more overt. He would leave real estate flyers on the kitchen counter, pointing out cozy condos that were perfect for a couple your age. He even went so far as to suggest we call a real estate agent he knew. He was pushing, testing our boundaries, emboldened by our initial silence. He saw our quiet despair as weakness, a signal that we were ready to be manipulated. But we were not weak. We were observing. We were listening. And we were planning. One evening, after David and Sarah had gone out for dinner, leaving the kids with us as a matter of course, Eleanor pulled a small, worn leather-bound book from our study. It was a journal, not of daily events, but of our financial history. For decades, we had been meticulous. We had a secret account, a small, quiet fund we had set up years ago for emergencies and later for a special, grand dream that we had long since given up on, our dream of traveling the world. The money we had saved for David's mortgage was a separate fund, a gift of love from our monthly retirement. This other account was our true secret. "This is not about the house anymore," Eleanor said, her voice firm. "This is about them thinking they can take everything from us. They believe we are helpless because we are old. We will show them that our age is our greatest strength." We spent hours in the study, our heads bent over the journal, a silent conspiracy taking shape. We decided to host a dinner, not with our family, but with the people who had always been our true support system. It would be our secret dinner, the one that the title of the story alludes to. We would invite our lifelong friend and lawyer, Mr. Henderson, a man of integrity and unwavering loyalty. We would also invite our neighbors, the Millers, who had always treated us with kindness and respect. This dinner would not be for celebrating, it would be for strategizing. The day of our secret dinner arrived. We told David and Sarah we were having a few old friends over for a quiet meal, to which they responded with a casual shrug. Sarah said we were sweet for holding on to our friendships, but she did not hide her subtle disdain for what she considered to be our boring social life. They left for another ski trip, an impromptu weekend getaway, leaving the house to us once more, completely oblivious to the gathering that was about to take place. As Mr. Henderson and the Millers arrived, the house, for the first time in what felt like forever, was filled with genuine warmth. We sat around the very dining table that had been set for a Christmas dinner that never was. The candles we had bought for the occasion were now lit, their soft light casting a gentle glow on our faces. But this was not a festive occasion. This was a meeting of minds, a gathering of people who understood the true meaning of family. "They want our home, Phil," I said to Mr. Henderson, my voice heavy with a pain that he, a man who had known us for 40 years, could hear. I explained everything: the cancelled Christmas, the blatant disregard, and David's brazen demand for our house and our will. Mr. Henderson listened patiently, his face a mask of profound sadness. "They have been pushing you for years, John," he said, his voice quiet. "I have seen it. A lot of parents go through this. But it is one thing to be ungrateful, and it is another thing to be so callous. They have crossed a line." Eleanor then spoke, her voice filled with a powerful clarity. "We want to fight back, Ken. Not out of spite, but out of a need to show them that we are not helpless. We want to show them that our dignity and our independence are not for sale. We want to protect ourselves, and we want to teach them a lesson they will never forget. We have our secret account, and we have a plan." And so, under the soft light of the candles, with the kind and sympathetic Millers as our witnesses, we began to lay out our plan. A plan that was not about revenge, but about justice. A plan that would use our secret assets to reclaim our lives and our dignity. We were done being victims. We were ready to become the masters of our own destiny once more. The conversation that followed was not filled with rage, but with a calm, methodical determination. We were not just talking, we were creating the future we deserved. We were rebuilding our family on a foundation of respect, even if it meant leaving some members behind. This was our secret dinner. This was the beginning of our quiet revolution. The days following our secret dinner with Mr. Henderson and the Millers were a strange blend of emotional turmoil and methodical purpose. A newfound strength had settled over Eleanor and me. We were no longer two old people waiting to be discarded. We were two veterans of a lifetime, armed with a plan and a renewed sense of dignity. We continued to play the part of the compliant, aging parents. We nodded when Sarah complained about the terrible state of our appliances and smiled weakly when David would leave another real estate brochure on the coffee table. Every interaction was a performance, a careful dance of feigned ignorance and silent resolve. We were not lying to them. We were simply allowing them to lie to themselves, to believe that their greed would go unchallenged. The turning point came when David, emboldened by our silence, brought up the subject of the house once more. He did it at the dinner table, in front of the grandchildren, a blatant and unforgivable breach of etiquette. "Dad," he began, his voice a little too loud, a little too confident, "I have made an appointment for you to meet with a real estate agent next week. He is a friend of Sarah's, and he will give you a good price for the house. We have found a wonderful, modern condo for you on the other side of town. It has an elevator, so you do not have to worry about the stairs anymore. It is all settled." I felt Eleanor's hand tense under the table, but her face remained calm. It was the calm before the storm. The children, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, fell silent. They looked at us, then at their father, their young faces mirroring a confusion that was heartbreaking to witness. This was it. The moment of truth. "That is very thoughtful of you, David," Eleanor said, her voice soft and measured. "But we have already made other plans." David laughed, a short, condescending sound. "Plans? What plans, Mom? You are not going to travel the world, are you? Be realistic. This house is a lot for you to handle." I looked at him, truly looked at him, and for the first time, I saw not my son, but the cold, calculating man he had become. His eyes were not filled with love or concern, they were filled with dollar signs. "As a matter of fact, we are," I said, my voice cutting through his laughter. "We have just bought a house. A new one." The silence that followed was absolute. The children looked at us, their eyes wide with disbelief. David's jaw dropped. Sarah, who had been sipping her wine with an air of smug superiority, choked. "A new house," she sputtered, wiping at her mouth with a napkin. "What are you talking about? You do not have the money for a new house. You are on a fixed income." Eleanor smiled, a genuine, powerful smile that reached her eyes. "We do, dear. We have had a secret account for years. An emergency fund, we called it. But it was always a dream fund. And we are going to use it for a new dream. You are lying, David said, his voice now laced with panic, not bravado. You are just saying that because you do not want to move. There is no such account. I reached into the pocket of my sweater and pulled out a small, heavy object. It was a single, gleaming key. I placed it on the table, right next to the real estate brochure he had left there earlier. This is a key to our new home, David. It is a beautiful little place, a 2-story cottage by the lake, with a wide veranda and a garden. We bought it outright with the money from our secret account. We closed the deal last week. The air in the room was thick with shock and disbelief. Sarah's face was a study in pure horror. She looked from the key to the brochure, the symbol of her supposed victory now rendered utterly meaningless. But you said you had no money for a trip. She stammered, her voice high and shrill. You said you needed to save. The house, what about the house? This house, our home, is a different matter, Eleanor said, her voice now hard as stone. You are so worried about us having to maintain it that we have decided to take your advice. We have put it up for sale, but not through your friend, Sarah. We used our own lawyer, Mr. Henderson. The mention of Mr. Henderson's name hit them like a physical blow. They knew him to be a man of integrity, a man who would never be swayed by their petty greed. They knew, in that instant, that this was real. That our quiet, unassuming facade had been a deliberate deception, a trap that they had walked into with open eyes. And about your mortgage, David, I said, my voice full of a sorrow that was deeper than anger. We had a check for you. A substantial one, to help you get back on your feet. It was our Christmas gift to you. We saved for months, sacrificing our own dreams for yours. But since you were not here for Christmas, and since you have now made it clear that you see us only as a means to an end, we have decided to give it to someone who deserves it more. Eleanor then pulled a photograph from her pocket, and she placed it on the table. It was a picture of a young couple with 2 small children, smiling brightly. This is our neighbor, Mr. Miller's son and his wife, she said, her voice unwavering. He is a paramedic and his wife is a teacher. They have been struggling to make ends meet, and they have been so kind to us over the years, checking in on us, helping us with our groceries, never asking for a single thing in return. We are giving them the check to help pay off their debt and start a new life. They deserve it. The full weight of our words settled over them. They had not just lost a house, they had lost our love, our support, our faith in them. They had lost the one thing they had been so desperate to get, our money. And in their greed, they had pushed us to a place where we had finally decided to choose ourselves. David stood up from the table, his face white with a mixture of shock, betrayal, and something else, a chilling, terrifying rage. How could you? He spat, his voice trembling with fury. This is our inheritance. You are giving away our money to strangers. It was never your money, David, I said, my voice quiet but firm. It was ours. We earned it. We saved it. And we have the right to do with it as we please. We are not a bank. We are not a trust fund. We are your parents. Or, at least, we were. You and Sarah have shown us that we were wrong to assume our love was enough for you. You have made it clear that your loyalty is for your own benefit, not for our family's bond. The children, seeing the explosive anger of their father, started to cry. Sarah, now a mess of mascara-streaked tears and a crumpled napkin, stood up and fled the room. The grand illusion of their control had been shattered, and they were left with nothing but the bitter, cold reality of their own actions. We had not lowered ourselves to their level, we had simply raised ourselves above it, choosing our dignity and our happiness over their ungrateful demands. The house was now silent again, but this time, it was a silence of peace, a quiet prelude to a new life, a new chapter that we were finally ready to begin. The fight was over, and we had won. The silence that had descended upon the house after David's outburst was not a silence of sadness, but a powerful, profound silence of resolution. Sarah had fled the room in tears, and David, after his furious accusation, had simply stood there, a look of abject shock and betrayal on his face. The key to our new home, the photo of the Millers, and the now meaningless real estate brochure lay on the table, stark symbols of the chasm that had opened between us. The children, sensing the irreparable fracture in their family, had gone quiet, their innocent faces filled with a dawning comprehension of their parents' greed. It was a heavy, terrible moment, but in its weight, we found a strange, peaceful release. The fight was indeed over. We had won. We had not just protected our assets, we had reclaimed our dignity. That night, David and Sarah packed their bags in a cold, silent fury. They did not speak to us, nor did they look at us. They simply gathered their things, their every movement a silent accusation. The children, sensing their parents' anger, were subdued, giving us a final, tearful hug before they left. As they drove away, their car's taillights disappearing into the snowy night, we stood on the porch, hand in hand. A profound sadness settled over us, not for what we had lost, but for what they had become. Our son was a stranger, and our daughter-in-law was a bitter enemy. They had chosen greed over family, and they were left with the consequences of their choice. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. We met with the Millers, and the look of shocked, tearful gratitude on their faces when we handed them the check was a moment we would cherish forever. It was a Christmas gift of a lifetime for them, a new beginning for their family. We sold our old home, the one that held so many memories, and in doing so, we closed a chapter of our lives that had become too painful to bear. The money from the sale, combined with the funds from our secret account, allowed us to live a life we had only dreamed of. We moved into our new cottage by the lake. It was a smaller, cozier place, but it was filled with light and warmth. The wide veranda overlooked a calm, sparkling lake, and the garden, though small, was a testament to our new beginning. We had a new dream, a new home, and a new life. Our days were filled with quiet joy, with long walks by the lake, with reading and gardening, and with the kind, genuine friendship of our new neighbors. And what of our old family? We heard things, of course. We heard that David and Sarah had been forced to sell their own house, unable to keep up with the mortgage without our help. They were forced to move into a tiny, cramped apartment, their dreams of a lavish life shattered. We heard that Mr. Miller's son and his wife, with the help of our gift, had started their own little family business, a small deli that was thriving in the heart of town. We heard that they had named a special sandwich after us, the Eleanor and John. It was a small, sweet testament to the kindness we had shown them. David and Sarah tried to contact us, of course. At first, it was a furious demand for a reconciliation, for us to see sense and do what was right. But we did not answer their calls. We did not respond to their emails. We had given them a chance to show us who they were, and they had shown us. Now it was our turn to show them that our love was not a commodity to be bought and sold. They had lost not just a house and money, but the warmth of a family that had once loved them unconditionally. They were left to face the bitter consequences of their own actions, and for them, that was the greatest punishment of all. Our new life was a life of peace and contentment. We had not lowered ourselves to their level. We had simply chosen to live a better life, one filled with respect, dignity, and true love. Our Christmas was no longer a forced, painful tradition. It was a quiet, joyful celebration, a time to reflect on our blessings and the kindness of those who truly loved us. The final irony was that in their greed, they had given us a gift, a new beginning, a chance to live a life that was truly our own, a life where we were not just an afterthought, but the central characters in our own story. And we were finally happy.